Have a seat, gentlemen, ladies. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Under Sheriff Lou Tomio, and I'd like to welcome everyone to today's swearing-in ceremony. As you know, with COVID, we face unique challenges, and we've had to modify the ceremony. Obviously, your friends and family loved ones could not be here today, but we were happy for those of you who are joining us online. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce some of the command staff that are here today. To my left is Chief Laura Bedard, Chief of Corrections, Chief Dan Purcell, Chief of Enforcement, Chief Mark Conway, Chief Investigations, and Chief of Staff Brian Byer. Also, I see over here we have Captains Howard, Captain Blue, Captain Francis, Lieutenant Thomas, Sergeant Andy Conklin. Sorry, he had his mask on. Also, I'd like to give special thanks and recognition to two of the really program coordinators for this program for the new hires. For the enforcement side, it's Sergeant Kristen Bates and Sergeant Corey Kelty for corrections. Thank you guys for another outstanding job. Appreciate that. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Sheriff Dennis Lima, who'll share a few words and swear in the group. Sheriff.
Thank you, Under Sheriff, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a strange time when we have these ceremonies because these are typically well-attended and family events. Gives us the opportunity to meet your loved ones as you come up and take photographs and, hear sometimes kids crying out in the room and celebration and all of that. So I look forward to the day that we can kind of get back to a normal type of environment. We can come together socially. So it's a lot quieter in here than what it normally is, which brings with it this level of formality of the entire process. The Seminole County Sheriff's Office has been around for quite a long time, 109 years to be exact. And when you look at the history and the creation of Seminole County, there were a variety of things that went on. One of those things was a highly contested race for the office of sheriff. Our first sheriff, Charlie Hand, was a pretty popular choice, and at that time, Seminole County was a part of Orange County. And the rule was the county seat or the location where the sheriff had to reside was the primary hub of business. And Sanford was becoming more and more popular with the celery trade, but it was still a long horse and buggy ride down to downtown Orlando now. So when the race for Orange County Sheriff was going on, if Sheriff Charlie Hand would have won that race, it would have been very likely that the county seat of Orange County would have been Sanford. And that, combined with some legislative politics, ultimately created the carve-out of Seminole County as we know it today. We go back 109 years, it's a long time when we look at it in our lifetime perspective, but during that 109 years, there's only been 10 people that have served as sheriff. I'm the 10th person, or the third person in the past 50 plus years. So we've had a long level of stability when it comes to our local agency here. The office of sheriff, and I share a little bit of history when we kind of swear in, because I think that I was here for quite a few years before I really understood the significance of the oath of office and the transfer of power. But the office of sheriff is one of the oldest known existing offices in this country. Actually, it's mentioned, the responsibilities are mentioned about 8 times in the creation of the Magna Carta, going way, way, way back to your history classes or your criminal justice courses. But it started in England, like much of our modern day law enforcement, but in England, there was more than one king of England. There was kings in various counties, or what they would call shires. Shire was a forerunner to the modern day county as we know it today. But as long as people have cohabitated together, there's always been a small percentage of people that have caused problems and created controversy. The kings, as they were at the time, would find a guardian to help protect people who lived within the Shire. The person that they picked to do that was titled a reeve. A reeve is another word used for guardian. So the reeve of the Shire became the Shire reeve in the 1600s in the modern day area of Newport News, Virginia, and that's where we found our first reeve of the Shire, or Shire reeve, or sheriff as we know it today. Now, sheriff is very unique because it is the only law enforcement official in the country that is elected by the people to serve the people. Or the only boss that a sheriff has is the citizens that they serve day in and day out. They don't work for the governor, they don't work for the county commissioner, they don't work for a mayor, they don't work for a city council. They work directly for the people. This is why you can turn on whatever national news you watch and see a sheriff offering strong opinions about whatever the topic is. It's the reason why you can watch some church services and see a sheriff in full uniform openly praying and preaching a sermon. A sheriff brings with it unique responsibilities, and those 4 fundamental responsibilities here in Seminole County that are granted by our state constitution is: 1, the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer of the county. And the reason why the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer of the county is because they are accountable and answer directly to the people, above all local, federal, and state authorities. This is why anytime there is a conversation that may infringe upon people's constitutional rights, the last line of defense for them is their local sheriffs in their counties. Second area of responsibility that a sheriff has here in Seminole County is to be the chief correctional officer of the county. And you'll find that what we do extends well beyond the traditional expectation of providing care, custody, and control. We quite literally believe and know that we can change people's lives during the time that they're incarcerated. In this business, there's a term that's thrown around quite frequently, rehabilitation. Or in the pure sense, rehabilitation means make what it once was, but unfortunately some were never right in the first place. Little boys and girls have no choice who their mommies and daddies are, and some have been given an unfair shake at life because they haven't been provided that nurturing and that grooming and that really fundamental skills during that infinite time, that very vulnerable time to help shape somebody's life. I like to think that we try to do that here at the Seminole County Sheriff's Office. And then, of course, we feel that crime is a symptom of another problem. And if we can treat substance abuse and mental health and poor parenting, ultimately it makes our community safer. And I think that's an expectation that our citizens have. If you arrest somebody that lives down the street from me, please try to correct them before you let them back out to live in my neighborhood again. Second responsibility of a sheriff here in Seminole County is to be the chief correctional officer of the county. Third, and a less known aspect of what we do, is the sheriff is responsible to be the chief executive officer of the circuit and county court, which means that the sheriff is responsible to adhere and be present in every single court proceeding every single day. Of course, we have 3 courthouses, we have a big function. In addition to that, when judges order the sheriff to carry out certain responsibilities, that comes directly to the sheriff. Whether it's risk protection orders, alimony, child support, eviction, a whole host of things that the sheriff is then ordered by the courts to take care of on behalf of the court. That is done because the sheriff is the executive officer of the circuit and county courts. And then fourth, and probably most holistic, is the sheriff is the conservator of the peace. So it doesn't matter what jurisdiction you're in. Here in Seminole County, we have 7 municipalities and 8 police departments, the 8th police department being the airport police. We have wonderful relationships, not only with the executive staff of each one of those offices, but the men and women who are working on the front lines and in the middle ranks, and the relationship is just absolutely phenomenal. But in the end of the day, it is ultimately the sheriff's responsibility to ensure that peace is maintained and control is preserved. Now, the reason why I tell you that is because the office of sheriff puts all of those responsibilities on me personally. And I think that anybody that stands here knows that I can't do those things personally. I can't be here with you if there's 3 courthouse buildings where court's going on and the law says that I need to be present inside those courtrooms. So the law allows a sheriff to deputize other people to serve in their stead, a modern day way of creating alter egos. So when you raise your hand and take this oath formally, many of you for the first time formally, the second time we did it at your graduation, but this is the transfer of power. The signatures on the forms, the pledging and taking the oath makes you all 4 of those things that I just mentioned. This ceremony makes you the chief law enforcement officer of the county, the chief correctional officer of the county, the chief administrative and executive officer of the circuit and county courts, and the conservator of the peace. It is a very, very important process, one that is kind of worthy of talking a little bit about the history and the significance of what you will now enter. So with that, if you would, please stand and raise your right hand. And we're going to have you individually present your names. We're going to do that because that's what we do as part of a tradition here. And second, it makes it a little bit easier to your family members that are watching online to hear you actually say it. So we'll start here. We'll work from here all the way down, and then we'll loop around all the way back, and hopefully we can get it right. I will say, state your name, and you won't need to say state your name. You'll just actually start stating your name. I. Do solemnly swear or affirm.
Do solemnly swear or affirm.
That I will support, protect, and defend.
That I will support, protect, and defend.
The Constitution and government.
The Constitution and government.
Of the United States.
Of the United States.
And the state of Florida.
And the state of Florida.
That I will enforce the laws.
That I will enforce the laws.
Of the state of Florida.
Of the state of Florida.
And the ordinances.
And the ordinances.
Of Seminole County.
Of Seminole County.
That I am duly qualified.
That I am duly qualified.
Under the Constitution of the state.
Under the Constitution of the state.
To hold office.
To hold office.
That I will well and faithfully.
That I will well and faithfully.
Carry out the duties.
Carry out the duties.
Of Seminole County Deputy Sheriff.
Of Seminole County Deputy Sheriff.
Or Seminole County Detention Deputy.
Of Seminole County Detention Deputy.
For which I'm about to enter.
For which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. At this point in time, I think you have your badges already, right? This time you get to keep them, which is a good news. And again, what we normally have done here is family members pin the badge on. It's kind of a ceremonial thing. But because of COVID, I'm going to need you to pin those badges on yourself. You got to do it every day anyway in the office, but if you would just pin yourself. I mean, there's no other way to say it, right? Just pin yourself with the badges. Put your badges on. All right? If you need some help, just throw your hand in the air. We'll get somebody over to help you. It's a lot easier when you're not wearing the shirt, you know? As you're pinning those badges on, you know, I want you to look at that as more than just a piece of metal that you're putting on your uniform. That is our brand. That is our logo. That is what we stand for and what we represent. Every person that wears that badge in Seminole County is a part of the norms, customs, and values in our inner fabric of what we create. And what is interesting, in nearly all 67 counties throughout the state, there's a universal recognition of that 5-point star. It means something to people. It means that you're one of the protectors and you're one of the good people that are coming to render aid and help those that are in desperate need of help out. And it doesn't matter what jurisdiction or where you're at. And there's a long history of people who have worn that badge. We stand on the shoulders of giants when it comes to preserving the quality of life and ensuring that we carry on that legacy during our time to serve. And it's not lost on me for 1 minute after pinning this badge on for now 29 years. I think about that constantly. And of course, when you look down at your Roman numeral 6 on your shirt, our 6 heroes, that we fulfill our responsibility to ensure their legacy lives on forever, and that their personal sacrifice and family's commitment is never forgotten. That's what we do. So when you're pinning those badges on, it's a great time to just reflect on the significance of this fraternity that you are just joining right now, and how proud your friends and your families that are watching online right now are of you. I tell people this all the time, that you have just become, if you were not already, you probably were already, but you have just become somebody that your family and friends will brag about forever. I don't care if they're on a cruise in the Caribbean or on vacation on the other side of the country, they will have a conversation with that somebody introduce the term law enforcement, or they'll see a police officer somewhere and they'll say, I've got a son or a daughter, a niece or a nephew or a close friend that's a law enforcement officer in Seminole County, Florida. Almost as if they'll mention your name to see if you know them from across the country. You know, we've got 900,000 law enforcement officers, but it's still such a close-knit fraternity that you are joining today. And, you know, we typically read the bios, and I think we all, when things are normal, we walk away so impressed with the quality and caliber and diversity of the people that we're bringing in today. And the opportunities for you to succeed and extend your knowledge base and do a lot of things within this office feels really good, not only for you and your family, but I think more so for us, because it shows us that our agency is in good hands, and that our future leaders of tomorrow, the sergeants and the lieutenants and the captains and the undersheriffs and chiefs and sheriffs, and are going to come from within our ranks, people who understand what we do and work hard to preserve it. So congratulations. I look forward to meeting your family members, and I think we're going to go with a group photograph now, and then we'll give some brief remarks and close out. But congratulations. We're all very proud of you. I know going through the academy, and many of you are new into the business, just came out of the academy. That's no easy task. I mean, they push you pretty hard in the academy. But, you know, knowing what our country is faced with right now, knowing that there's such good people that are attracted to come in, makes us feel good about the quality of life and the relationship we have with our citizens here in Seminole. So I think Sergeant Bates is going to take him for the photograph, or Sergeant Kelty, or both. So why don't you do that now?